That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, my dudes, here we are going to be talking about some must draft running backs. And I'm not going to be talking about the guys at the very top because obviously you know to take Christian McCaffrey at the 101, you know to take Alvin Kamara at the 103, Dalvin Cook at the 102. I mean, everybody has already discussed that at length. What I want to focus in on are some running backs that I think that you can actually get after you already have 3 wide receiver ones that you can feel comfortable about with your roster. Maybe you decide to go wide receiver early. Maybe you grab an elite tight end and you're looking for some elite level running back upside later on in the draft. I think that's exactly what we have for you here. Not going to be focusing on running backs that I think have a high floor but a low ceiling, someone like a Mike Davis. While that's great for a certain build, I think what we really want to focus in on is identifying those league-winning running backs, those guys that have the potential to go out there and just completely change the landscape of what you're actually finding with win rates this upcoming season. I think all these players have the potential to be running back ones in fantasy, and none of them are being drafted close to that. Now, of course, guys, before we get into it, go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We are going to be at 27,000 subscribers very soon. And yeah, that's all I have for y'all. Let's dive into this video. And what we are going to be doing is looking at my favorite rookie running back to start us off with Travis Ettiene. Now, of course, you can't go out there and you can't take Travis Ettiene over Najee Harris. That would be just obnoxious. But based on the 2 running backs with where they are currently being drafted in fantasy drafts, I think Travis Ettiene makes so much sense right now. And I'll be completely transparent. I'm a little bit worried at the time that I'm recording this that this video may not necessarily be valid by the time it's going to upload because I'm recording this about 24 hours before the upload date. And I'm worried that any second now, James Robinson's going to get traded to Los Angeles. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but it's definitely a possibility given the team investment that this team made into Travis Ettiene. And what's great is usually when you have a running back that you know can catch passes and they get selected in the first round of the NFL draft, I mean, that player is going to most of the time be a low-end running back 1, high-end running back 2 in fantasy drafts their rookie season, because we know at the running back position, it's very different than wide receiver. It's very different than tight end. These players don't really have to develop that much more. I mean, they are already elite level athletes coming into the NFL. They essentially just have to know how to hit a hole and go as fast as they can through it. And Travis Ettiene, of course, has that coming out of Clemson. And instead of you having to pay the premium of a low-end running back 1 like you're doing with a Najee Harris or a high-end running back 2 like you have done in previous years, I think that the price tag of Travis Ettiene makes no sense. This is a player that is currently being drafted as the running back 21 in fantasy drafts. He's going directly behind some running backs that are pretty damn good in Chris Carson, Josh Jacobs. Now, I'll say in the case of Travis Ettiene, my problem is he's going way after those running backs in drafts. I mean, unless you're playing in a flock league, you're most of the time not going to have the shot at taking Travis Ettiene anywhere in this range, because in a flock league, we all know that there are so many people that watch this channel that love our man, Travis Ettiene, for so many great reasons that he goes a lot earlier than this. But in a standard high-stakes redraft league, you're getting Travis Ettiene as that low-end running back 2, right next to Javonte Williams, Darrell Henderson, Myles Gaskin. You can really see any of those running backs go off the board in any order. And if I pull up my own rankings, we actually currently have Travis Ettiene ranked as a 4th-round pick. We have him directly behind T. Higgins, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk. And depending on how your draft is going and you really need a running back, I'm fine with you taking Travis Ettiene over any of those players. I mean, if you go to Patreon right now to pull up our 2021 fantasy football rankings, you see that within those rankings, we've broken it down by tiers. And I definitely need to do a better job explaining this over there on Patreon and how I want y'all to be utilizing these rankings. And obviously, it's not for you to look at and you just go, okay, I'm using this exact thing for my entire draft. It's a very great tool that I think you can use your own player evaluations and just double check to make sure that you're not that far off. Because if I have a Travis Ettiene ranked at 46 in our overall rankings, and I have a T. Higgins ranked at 43 overall, and you went and started off your draft with 2 wide receiver 1s, possibly a Tyreek Hill and a Devontae Adams, and then you also grabbed a tight end like Darren Waller, and you really need a running back there, of course, if those players are in the same tier, you go out and you draft Travis Ettiene. And if we pull up the Travis Ettiene profile right now, I mean, this is a running back that checks every single one of those boxes that we look for prospects coming into the NFL. So if y'all aren't familiar with Dynasty Fantasy Football, I mean, we really dive into so many factors of these rookies coming into the NFL based on their historical comparisons, based on the boxes that they check. And I actually did an in-depth breakdown, historical research in our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide that I'm sure that a lot of people watching this video have already had, given the fact that so many people watching this are supporting the show on Patreon. But beyond this, what we identified in that draft guide is we looked at 4 different boxes being so important for these running backs. You need the size to be a 3-down player. You need the team investment, so we know that the team plans on utilizing you as a workhorse running back. You need the speed for that efficiency, and you also need the pass catching ability in a PPR format. And we created different thresholds for all those measurables based on what we've had historically with players fitting in those boxes and with what they did at the NFL over the past 10 years. And we have some easy thresholds that Travis Etienne needs to reach. So he needs to have an 8.5% college target share, which he crushes. I mean, we know that Travis Etienne, a player that, I mean, he had 5 targets a game in his final year at Clemson. That is ridiculous. You never see that from a running back. And at the same time, what you really love to see is the fact that he actually reaches the minimum size requirement that we had for Travis Etienne. Because my one concern with him as a prospect coming into the NFL is if you looked at him at Clemson, he did not look like a big-bodied running back. He looked like someone that maybe was just going to catch passes, someone that wasn't going to get a full set of downs in the NFL. But he comes out and he actually weighs in at 5'10", 215 pounds. This gives him a BMI close to 31, and the minimum threshold that we have for a running back's BMI here is actually 30. Obviously, he gets drafted in the first round. He's a track star. You don't have to worry about the team investment or the speed at all. And with Travis Etienne, you're looking at him as a running back that checks every single box possible. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying, but Mason, James Robinson is there. Mason, James Robinson's great. And that is true. James Robinson is a very good running back. But what we have to look at with James Robinson is the fact that I think that his role in his offense is not going to be taking that much value away from Travis Etienne. Because we have seen Travis Etienne's profile before at the NFL level. We have seen running backs that look like Travis Etienne. We saw one last year with DeAndre Swift. We saw one in 2017 with Alvin Kamara. I mean, those are 2 clear comparisons. Also, you go to that 2017 NFL draft class and you have Aaron Jones. All 3 of those running backs are guys that catch passes out of the backfield and get usage in the red zone. Both categories which we know that Travis Etienne can accomplish. And all of a sudden, it doesn't matter if James Robinson's getting 10, 11, 12 carries a game, because if he is getting those carries a game, they're going to be between the 20-yard lines. They're going to be carries that really don't equate to that many fantasy points, and it's going to give Travis Etienne all the high leverage touches. I mean, look at DeAndre Swift last year in his rookie season. I barely reached like 40% of the backfield touches, yet he was a mid running back too his rookie year. And Adrian Peterson and Kerryon Johnson, they did absolutely nothing because they weren't getting the valuable touches. The same thing with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, where you have seen Aaron Jones only get about 60% of the backfield touches every single season. And while, yes, he's very valuable because he's very good in fantasy, but what makes him an elite running back is the fact that he's getting the targets, he's getting the usage at the goal line, so you're expecting both the touchdowns and the receptions to be there. And we have the same thing with Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray in New Orleans, where all of those players are in a committee, but you have to focus in on what matters with the touches in that committee. And Travis Etienne fits that mold. I mean, you look at him as a player that had 5 targets a game his last year at Clemson. That has to matter for something. So now let's go to another committee running back, someone that honestly, I think he possibly has the potential to rise the most in terms of his real life fantasy value this upcoming month. And that's because he could be on the trade block. You could see so many things changing in his situation. And this is Kareem Hunt. So right now, I understand that Kareem Hunt definitely is a player that you're not projecting to be a top 10 running back right now. And that makes a lot of sense because he is playing behind the best running back, I want to say best pure running back in the NFL, maybe a top 3. Now, of course, I'm on record saying Nick Chubb is overrated in fantasy given the fact that Kareem Hunt is in the backfield. Kareem Hunt is going to be getting targeted at a heavy rate. We've already seen his elite ceiling before. And what's possible is looking at the contract situation for Hunt, for Chubb, and looking at what just happened in LA. Honestly, I would not be that surprised if the Los Angeles Rams made an aggressive play to go and trade for Kareem Hunt, because we have seen the Rams time and time again. When they think they have a contending roster, they're willing to go out there and move multiple pieces for one. And I think what you could end up seeing the Cleveland Browns decide to do is the fact that they're going to have to give Nick Chubb an extension this offseason. There's nothing else to do if you're the Cleveland Browns, because we know that Nick Chubb is not going to be playing a single down without that extension. I mean, it wouldn't make any sense for him. That's a running back that's already suffered a severe injury. That's a running back that at the same time, I mean, he is so good that it makes sense for him to not be willing to pay for pennies on the dollar when we know he can get that mega extension. So the Browns are going to be in a scenario where they're going to have to give Nick Chubb the bag. They're going to have to decide to do with what they want with Kareem Hunt. Now, yes, I think most of the time Kareem Hunt stays in Cleveland. More times than not, he does. But you have the potential that somehow he gets traded to LA, where I'm assuming he'd be a feature down running back. I'm not going to guess that Darrell Henderson's taking any touches away from him. Or B, he's still in the same situation, which I would argue is a fantastic situation. Because you go through and you look at Kareem Hunt over the past few years. Kareem Hunt has been a low-end running back 2 in fantasy based on just his role in the passing game. And what I really want to focus in on is, while I understand that Nick Chubb did go down to injury last year, and Kareem Hunt didn't vault up and be a top 5 running back like we expected, but it was such a small sample that I think it's going to be very difficult for us to say, well, we've seen Nick Chubb and out of this offense, and we've seen what it does for Kareem Hunt. Because while we can say that, at the same time, when it's a small sample, there is so much noise going into it. We know the weather was really bad. We understand that the matchups weren't necessarily there. And Kareem Hunt himself was dealing with an injury during that stretch. So all of those different variables, I think, kind of cloud our judgment. And that if we would have had just a clean slate for Kareem Hunt to play in a game where Nick Chubb missed, based on what we have seen historically with Kareem Hunt and his profile, Kareem Hunt, I think, could be a top 5 running back. Now, please let me know in the comment section, because you know that I value your opinion immensely. But go to the comment section and let me know where you would be drafting Kareem Hunt if Nick Chubb tore his Achilles tomorrow. Say, instead of that injury happening to Cam Akers, what if it would have happened to Nick Chubb? Because if Nick Chubb, for whatever reason, suffers an injury this upcoming year, which we see running backs do every single season, Kareem Hunt, in my opinion, vaults up to being a top 5 running back. I will go on record in saying that in a full point PPR format, if Nick Chubb is out for the year, the Cleveland Browns don't add another running back. I'm saying if they don't add another running back, I would prefer having Kareem Hunt over Derrick Henry. I think Kareem Hunt would all of a sudden become my 104, the 4th player overall, behind only Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, and Dalvin Cook. Because we go back and we look at him in Kansas City, his first and second years. There, he was a top 5 running back his rookie season in 2017. In 2018, he was also a top 10 running back. That season cut short, of course. And since then, his situation in Cleveland has only improved in terms of the offensive line. And now, of course, you can't project him to be anywhere close to that, given the fact that Nick Chubb is in town. But given that he's running behind one of the best, if not the best offensive lines in the entire NFL, we have seen him be a top 5 running back before, and we know that he is a more than capable pass-catching running back. I think that Kareem Hunt does have top 5 running back upside if Nick Chubb goes down. And at the same time, this is a player that isn't a pure handcuff. He's not like a Tony Pollard. You can actually start him even if Nick Chubb is playing. Now, our last running back we are going to be discussing is not going to have the same type of upside that you actually see with a Kareem Hunt or Travis Etienne. But nonetheless, I think he has a very high floor for where he's being drafted. This is Chase Edmonds. So I thought with the departure of Kenyon Drake that we were going to see Chase Edmonds be valued as a mid running back 2, maybe even a high end running back 2 in fantasy drafts this year. And that hasn't happened at all. For whatever reason, Chase Edmonds is being valued as a mid running back 3 in fantasy drafts. Currently, he's going as the running back 28 in high stakes leagues. And if we pull up my rankings right here, we don't have him that much better than that. We actually have him at running back 27. But the big difference is the tier cutoffs, where if you look at the overall rankings, I mean, we are going to be aggressive in drafting Chase Edmonds. Now, he is in the same tier for me as Kareem Hunt, Darrell Henderson, Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis, and Chase Edmonds, where I'm fine with you going with any of those running backs. My preference out of the group would be Kareem Hunt, but Chase Edmonds does make a lot of sense in that we go through, and I understand he hasn't had an elite season yet, but he has reasons why he hasn't been able to command that full down workload. I mean, he is only 25 years old, so also you're not expecting a fall off anytime soon. And if we go through and we actually map out what he has done so far through his NFL career, I mean, in 2018, his rookie season, really nothing. I mean, he averages about 4 points per game. I mean, very hard to draw anything from that. 2019, he starts to get a little bit more utilized. 2019, he sees his targets get bumped up to over 1.5 a game. He sees his carries get bumped up to 4.5 a game. And he is actually, I don't want to say usable in fantasy, but he becomes a premium handcuff running back. And then this past year, he finally becomes usable in fantasy. He averages over 50 rushing yards a game. He averages over 4 targets a game, 6 carries a game, and he is a running back 3 in fantasy. But that was with Kenyon Drake. And obviously, Kenyon Drake is out of the picture now. And when we had Kenyon Drake not in this lineup, and we had Chase Edmonds playing over 60% of the snaps this past year, I mean, he was very effective with what he got in terms of his overall touches per game. If you were trying to chase touches, you were doing a great job playing Chase Edmonds, because you look at the 2 games that we have that Chase Edmonds played over 60% of the snaps in Arizona last year. In both games, he averaged 15 carries a game and 5 targets a game as well. So you go through and you see that this is a running back getting utilized on all 3 downs, and he's getting heavy usage in the receiving game, even with a mobile quarterback. And you love that for Chase Edmonds. And on top of this, we know that no Kenyon Drake is going to open up just 60% of his snaps through the entire year. I'd be very surprised if Chase Edmonds isn't regularly playing anywhere from 60 to 70% of the snaps for the Arizona Cardinals. And we actually have another game where we got to see him in 2019, his second year, where there was no Kenyon Drake, there was no David Johnson, and all of a sudden Chase Edmonds goes out and he has 27 carries, 4 targets, over 130 total yards, and he has 3 total touchdowns. That is massive in terms of succeeding when you were given the opportunity. And now Kenyon Drake leaving behind 239 carries, 31 targets, over 1,000 yards, and 10 touchdowns. That's opening up the opportunity for Chase Edmonds. And I understand a lot of people are going to be saying, but Mason, they bring in James Conner. We have seen James Conner be a 3-down running back before. And yes, that's a great point, but there are a couple things with that. We know with James Conner, this is a running back that, I mean, he can't stay healthy himself. How many games do you actually think James Conner is going to be playing this upcoming season? And then we add on to the James Conner uncertainty with his health, the fact that the Arizona Cardinals are not paying him anything at all. I mean, you actually look at what the Arizona Cardinals gave James Conner this offseason. They're paying him $1.75 million. That is nothing. That is just backup type money. It's not telling you that he's going to be utilized in the receiving game, the goal line usage. I mean, we don't know that at all. With James Conner, he's actually getting paid as the 44th running back in the NFL, so an average running back too. And if you take away the rookie contracts, understanding that he's actually getting paid more than guys like Antonio Gibson, Cam Akers, just because they're on their rookie deals, I mean, this deal looks that much worse for James Conner. So right now, I think that Chase Edmonds, people are not necessarily looking at the fact as this is a running back that when he's been given the opportunity, he's succeeded with it. He's playing in an elite offense. He projects to have opportunity for all 17 games this upcoming season. So yeah, you have to really be excited about Chase Edmonds at his ADP. Now, thank you, my dudes. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. Of course, if y'all did, please go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow. We've gotten a ton of new members joining the flock. Thank you, Grind for Gold, Devin, Bungified, Brian, Brody, Victor, Chris, Grant, Trevor, and David. Thank you, my dudes.